Welcome back to our annual Impact Symposium. The next segment of our program is a highlight every year, and in keeping with tradition, we invite our facilitator, who's our moderator today, Steve Adubato, Emmy Award-winning anchor for 13 WNET PBS and NJTV. Hey folks, I can hear you all up here. I'd really appreciate, oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Because Steve Adubato deserves a great introduction because he's a great friend to NJBIA and he's a great friend to the business community. Steve hosts many of you on his shows. Steve brings cutting edge and important business issues and provides the opportunity to inform the New Jersey populace and electorate on issues impacting all of us in the business community. So I would like to welcome our friend to the podium. He will introduce our legislative leaders today, Steve Adubato.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor, my pleasure to be a small part of a great event, a big event. And the Business and Industry Association has been a partner of ours for a long time. I learn a lot from this publication. I'm sure you do as well. I'm excited about the survey, and I was watching Michelle talk about on our broadcast on NJTV News. By the way, Assemblyman and Senator, I can just work plugging in very naturally. Every night, NJTV News, when they were reporting on the survey, I was struck by some of those results, and it's important that we talk about them publicly with our legislative leaders. Let's put this right out front. Clearly, we have two senior members of the state legislature who just happen to be Republicans. Senator Paul Sarlo, who I just spoke to, will be here in just a little bit. He will not be able to participate in the panel, timing-wise, and I just want to also make it clear that the Business and Industry Association staff did in fact reach out and attempt to schedule Democrats to be here, and because of a variety of scheduling conflicts, that was not possible. But we will have the most spirited discussion. I will play what in my family is called devil's advocate, and my father just used to call it arguing with people. So I will play devil's advocate, gentlemen, and we'll also engage our audience. And right off the bat, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce two guys that I've known a long time. Two are longtime friends. First, the Republican Assembly leader. Put your hands together for Assemblyman John Bramnick. And also one of the ranking members in the Senate Budget Committee who deals with a whole range of complex fiscal issues in the state, cares deeply about the state, State Senator Steve Oroho. So let's get this going right away. Washington and what happens in Washington or doesn't happen in Washington clearly impacts our state. The tax plan that is being voted on as we speak, the Senate made their move just the other day. Clearly, New Jersey is impacted by that, by those decisions. Question: in light of what has happened in Washington, what are your thoughts, Senator, you take this first, on the prospect of a quote-unquote millionaire's tax here in New Jersey in the next administration to pay for a lot of what needs to be paid for? Your thoughts?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, this is working? Thank you. Steve, well, first of all, thank you very much for BIA for allowing us to be here. The millionaire's tax, the one thing that I would say, when you take a look at the tax structures, federal and state, your state has to be competitive. The millionaire's tax would make us, reinstitution of millionaire's tax, we have experience with it. We know that it chased capital income out of New Jersey. Now, we just made a big change to eliminate the estate tax. States need to compete for capital. Those states that are attractive to capital and attractive to income do well. So the reinstitution of the millionaire's tax, obviously in my opinion, would not be a good idea. I think we actually lose money. And when you think about it, a lot of the money that would, from quote unquote the millionaire's tax, gets siphoned away by a tax credit to other jurisdictions, mainly New York. So I don't think it'd be a good idea at all.
No flexibility in your mind on this?
No, not on that. No, not on that one.
Not on the millionaire's tax.
Not on the millionaire's tax. We already had the experience, and in my opinion, it caused us if you look at and BIA did a great job of this, looking at the amount of taxable income that New Jersey lost in the last decade of history of the data that's available by the IRS data. It's not our data, it's IRS data. New Jersey lost $20 billion worth of net taxable income.
People who left?
People who left, but it also includes people who came in, but the net outflow, net outflow is $20 billion.
So, by the way, speaking of millionaires, let me say something about John Bramnick. No, see, I'm just not really joking, but here's the thing. I want to acknowledge that you are not just a fine representative of your district in the state, but listen, as I said about plugging, he is also one of the funniest. He is by far the funniest state legislator, and I've said this many times, the bar is not too high on that, but he's also legitimately funny. And do you mind if I mention the NJPAC initiative, the event?
Wouldn't mind.
By the way, on
at all.
April 7th, John Bramnick, a member of the New Jersey State Legislature, is performing at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, not as a legislator, but as a comic on the undercard of, is it Mike Marino, who's one of the funniest guys in the nation? That deserves a great round of applause. So John, let me ask you, anything funny in your mind about the millionaire's tax?
No, but many people will tell me, I really like that guy on TV, Steve Abba.
Don't be making fun of my Italian name.
It's amazing how many people love you, but just can't get the name right.
Just can't.
Is there anything funny about the millionaire's tax? You know,
Anything good about it?
Yeah, is there something good about it?
Yes.
I think if you're a Democrat and you vote for that and you argue that you're getting money from millionaires for projects in their district, I'm assuming that some people like it because it polls well. But simply because it polls well doesn't mean it's good for New Jersey. And so we are in a crisis, I think. I think this is as serious as it gets with the federal legislation, which most of the congressmen from this state, Republicans,
Except one?
Well, except MacArthur, voted against this bill. At the same time, you have potentially more taxes in New Jersey. Look, this isn't complicated. People are moving to Florida and other states, and they're staying there for 6 months and 1 day. I see it all the time, and it's only going to get worse. I worry for the state. This is a very serious situation for us in the business community as well as just New Jerseyans.
Let me press this a little bit. In interviewing, at the time, Ambassador Murphy, who clearly is the governor-elect about to become the governor in mid-January, when I asked him about this and pressed him on this, he was very clear. And he can speak for himself. His public statements are out there. He said, look, we need this money from those who have the most. And when I pressed on the question of potentially losing those who have the most by changing the legal residence, he said he doesn't buy it. He said he does not sense that those who have the most are making decisions on where they live based on that criteria. You say, Senator, I'll come back to you, John.
In my other life, I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm a certified public accountant. I don't practice as a CPA. I do practice as a certified public accountant. I don't know how anybody could actually say that when you take a look at, just talk to your neighbors. Just talk to, and...
you mean anecdotally you've seen it?
Anecdotally, you see it. Well, you also see it from the data that was published by the BIA. You also see it from, they always talk about...
You mean the survey?
The survey. But in my industry, I hear it all the time. And the other thing that you hear as well, and the issue with the charitable contributions, is a number of the estate attorneys would come in to my office and say, I just lost a client to Florida, and by the way, they wanted to give $10 million to a university. They didn't care where they gave it. They wanted to give it where they lived. So I had to advise them to give it in Florida.
Not to Rutgers?
Not into. Now, we have many institutions that could have certainly used that, been well. But that's the other unintended consequence of chasing those people away. Now, as Senator Bremick and Leader Bremick had mentioned, polling it does very well.
Yeah, the public says, why not? What's wrong?
But
why ignore that? Respectfully, Senator, why would you ignore that public opinion?
Well, first of all, they're busy with their own lives. They're not going to look at capital flows all the time. And when they hear from, hey, listen, let's get it from the man, get it from the man. Then you find out that guess what? It affects me.
How does taxing those who are making $1 million or more affect somebody making 75 grand or more?
Well, first of all, once you lose that capital, think about the $20 billion how much revenue we would have had in New Jersey's treasury had that $20 billion been zero. And we would just net zero. Our treasury would have been significantly better. Our charities would have been significantly better.
Leader Bramnick?
Let's take a neighbor that I know who may be earning $3 million a year and pays $50,000 in property taxes. After the federal law and after New Jersey property tax, his failure to, or his inability to deduct his property taxes, at least above $10,000.
Based on the federal law, if it happens.
And with respect to state income tax, let's call it at 10%. And let's talk about his inability to deduct his state income tax.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking about a specific individual. That could be a $300,000 loss. Now, let's assume his kids have grown up. He wants to be near his children. But today, people move all over the country, including children. What is motivating him with a loss of $300,000 to stay in New Jersey? I don't see why that's complicated. I see it constantly, every day. I just took a trip to Florida. Most of the people on the golf course were from Illinois. They look at me and go, New Jersey's people are on their way as well. They're leaving, period. Now, why does it poll well? If you have 2 or 3 jobs and you can't make ends meet and your life is difficult, why would you not favor a millionaire's tax? You would. You're not looking at whether New Jersey's competitive. You're not determining whether or not this is a problem for the growth of New Jersey. You're in favor of it because government should be helping this person. I agree.
So you're saying the average person doesn't understand?
Well, I don't say understand.
The implications.
It's a global issue. It's a very broad issue. It's not a day-to-day issue as to look, our districts are so gerrymandered that the people in this room are not in the room with the people in a very democratic
district. Urban democratic district.
I can tell you that the people walking around the street of an urban democratic district, they're not going to be concerned about a millionaire's tax or some millionaires leaving for Florida.
But it's not, respectfully, we'll get off this in a minute. It's not just in urban districts. I mean, it wouldn't poll the way it does.
I said democratic districts. You said urban districts.
They're not mutually exclusive.
But the gerrymandering of our system, both federal and state, is a disaster because we then vote on the extremes as opposed to in the middle.
So now you're raising an issue of redistricting, which was not on our agenda today. Michelle, I don't believe that the survey examined redistricting. You're also saying New Jersey, the way it's set up, quote unquote, in the legislature, is a setup to favor the Democrats. I believe that's what you just said.
Well, I think everyone would agree that the map from 8 years ago was a pro-democratic map. I don't think there's any question about that. There's no one arguing that the map was fair. But I don't care about the map. What I care about is I want districts that are competitive so you have people who vote in the middle.
And do you think the legislative outcomes would be different if that were the case?
Without any doubt.
Senator, final comment on this?
Comment on the poll issue, all right, if you would. Because
on public opinion.
Public opinion. Because you poll anything. If somebody's going to think they're going to get it from somebody else, they're going to say, yes, go ahead. Get it from somebody else. Now, are there more people who not making $1 million than who make $1 million?
Clearly.
Absolutely, clearly. So no wonder why the polling does so well, because you ask somebody, I can either tax you or I can tax them. They're going to say, tax them.
Well, speaking of public opinion, this is interesting. The $15 minimum wage, really the mandatory $15 minimum wage. Michelle, that was clearly examined. By the way, it's interesting. Michelle, when she was with us last time on an interview with us in public broadcasting, talked about millennials leaving as well, if I'm not mistaken. Michelle, it's a big issue. But the other question that was looked at in the survey is the $15 minimum wage, correct?
Yes.
So let's go to it. The governor-elect Murphy, is seemingly committed to this. I saw a press conference he held the other day with a whole range of folks around him saying, we are committed. And when he was asked why the magic number of $15 an hour, he said, well, why what is it?
870, 860.
8 and change. I would argue that, again, playing devil's advocate, there are a whole range of New Jerseyans who say, yeah, why not? $15. Why not?
First, this is the only thing I've seen all the Democrats agree on. They had a press conference. I think Coughlin and Sweeney were there as well. So it looks like that's the only thing that is a done deal, and apparently they have it phasing in. The reason it's not a good idea because...
Even with the phase-in, you don't like it?
No, I have no problem with an increase in the minimum wage. It's not bad guy, good guy. I don't want to help people who are making a minimum wage. The question is, New Jersey needs to be competitive. The senator said that. This is just one element of a plan that makes us less competitive, where businesses look at the following facts. One, I'm a CEO. My higher paid individuals are going to be paying a lot in taxes. Two, I have to pay more for my employees. All of these factors come together and make us a unfriendly business state. So, yes, happy to raise the minimum wage once we get back as a competitive state in this country.
So hold on, you wouldn't be in favor of, say, it goes to $11, but you're saying it's competitive. I want to understand this. You're saying it has to be based on the economic conditions of the state versus a mandatory increase in it.
Everybody in this room likes to give raises to employees.
I like to, but it's difficult these days.
Perfect.
This is true.
Everyone in this room understands that no decision is isolated by itself. A minimum wage increase in the environment we have now, or should I say a minimum wage increase to $15, the message is sending is the wrong message at this time.
Senator.
I agree. And you look at most successful businesses, I would say all successful businesses, they look at deploying capital. One of the things they could deploy capital for is payroll. The next they could deploy capital for is technology, innovation. And it's that marginal dollar they look at and say, okay, how can we get the most value of that marginal dollar? And in some respects, I firmly believe it's going to hurt the lower wage worker, because in most of those, let's face it, most businesses, successful businesses, aren't paying minimum wage. They're paying more above the minimum wage, because they know that they have to retain. It's hard to retain and recruit personnel right now, particularly the kind of trained personnel that they
That's
need.
right.
But no matter what, as that cost goes up, they're going to look to say, okay, the next dollar, how do I best value that dollar? Right. Could very well be, let's go more towards kiosks, automation, that sort of thing, and now you're going to hurt that kind of.
Let's stay on this. Leader Remnick, just 1 second. Can we get a microphone to Michelle? I know that, Michelle, you're delivering your address a little bit later, but because this part of the survey was absolutely critical, could you just give a synopsis of what the survey said regarding the potential impact from those who were surveyed on the $15 minimum wage issue? Please share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I am great. So 64% of our members said a minimum wage increase would impact their business, forcing them to take action. 29% said that they would reduce staff. 27% said they would reduce hours. 30% said they would raise prices. 11% said they would automate.
Can I tell one story about driving through Orojo's district?
Please.
So I stop at...
Describe where his district is.
It's in Sussex County. It's really part of Pennsylvania, but...
What?
It's
See,
beautiful.
this is part of the act on April 7th.
You can tell, you can tell when you're in Sussex County. So anyway, there's a quick check on 15, right? And there is one woman checking people out, and there's 5 of those self-checkouts where everyone is having a problem, including me. So the line for this one woman is 8 people, because I cannot figure these things. It's like Newark Airport. There's no people left at these things. You order a drink through a computer. Eventually, the robot's going to bring the drink, right? There's going to be, this human factor, and I know you said it was only a small percentage of automation, but I'm not sure that it's not actually more significant than that. But that loss of humanity because business can't afford to pay a $15 minimum wage has more impact than simply a business decision. You know, I like having a real bartender to tell all my problems to at Newark Airport. You go to Newark Airport, I asked somebody at Newark Airport at that one of those automatic things, I said, "Where's the restroom?" He said, "Check with the computer."
So you're concerned about the quality of bartending if in fact...
Actually, I am.
I just want to clarify.
When I order the
That's
big,
very important.
I want a lot of ice, okay? This computer, you cannot tell a lot of ice to. You try, it just won't. I can't even find where the drinks are in these
All right,
things.
all right.
It is absolutely unbelievable.
Rick, you see what we're dealing with here?
And it adds 18% tip without you suggesting it. They add 18%.
So let's clarify.
Sorry,
to sum up now, Leader Bramnick is planning to go on the floor of the lower
Bartender
house
tour.
to share your thoughts on the potential impact regarding bartending around the state. But in all seriousness, it does raise some interesting points. I'm going to do this. I know there are other issues we're going to look at, including the estate tax and some other things. Anyone here, because where are our microphones? I know we have microphones around. Anyone here want to share your thoughts or raise the question on the $15 minimum wage? You can also go to the millionaire's tax, but we beat that one to death, if you will. Yeah. Yes, could you tell us who you are, sir?
I'm Bart Jackson with Prometheus Publishing, and I know that any government that robs Peter to pay Paul can always count on the support of Paul. And as my wife's husband says, pirates have to dress better than IRS agents because they have to appear in person to steal your money. I got all that. And I've also gotten the message from it's not the right time to raise wages. We need to...
When would that be?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, just let me play devil's advocate for a moment.
Sure.
This one quarter thinking of we can't raise it now because it might hurt us now. What has made New Jersey shine so and our nation shine so is because we are one of the few countries, and this state a gem, of the ability to have the people who work at it, who make the stuff, buy the stuff. Well, I have been over to China, and in ages past, when they had 1 billion people who couldn't buy a thing because they kept wages low. And so my answer is, my question is, it's not the time. Is there ever a good time to make the people of this state able to buy the stuff that we're making and thus make us all share the wealth and make the people on top a little
I'm going
bit?
to be clear. You favor raising the minimum wage to $15. But by applause, who favors raising the minimum wage to $15? By applause, let's go. I'm looking. You don't have to applaud louder. It's not going to change things, sir. By applause, Rick, you putting this on video? Geez, I'm in trouble. It's okay. It's all good. Here we go. By applause, who thinks raising the minimum wage to $15 in the year 2018, from where it is to $15, is not good for the state? By applause. There are some folks who did not cast their vote there. Final thoughts on this. By the way, do you think it's going to happen, Senator? The Democrats have the votes, or do they?
I do think it's going to happen because they have the votes. Obviously, it depends upon the amount of pushback that they get. But there's
from whom?
Steve, first of all, I think from the business community, I think it's important, particularly the small businesses, to be able to speak with them. But also, it's interesting. I heard the cost to government. Now, I've heard two different things, and I'm not sure what the final answer on this, because I haven't seen what obviously the final bill would be.
Sure.
But the cost to government, state government, would be up towards $750 million. That doesn't include the impact for the counties, and municipalities, and the school boards. However, what I also hear is that government may be exempt. Why would government be exempt?
So if you were the government, hold on one second. So a government agency would not have to raise the minimum wage to $15?
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I wish Senator Sarlo were here right now. I'm not sure how he feels about that, by the way. But we need to clarify if that. But there's no legislation to point to right now. Does the legislation exempt?
There's a lot of bills out there.
But there's not a particular piece of legislation that the governor-elect has said that legislation. Michelle, what am I missing?
Federal law. There's an aspect of, my folks know this better than I do. There's an aspect of federal law that we are studying right now that suggests that at the local level you could be exempt from this. However, we know that municipalities and counties in the state of New Jersey already voluntarily are going to it. So you can't mandate it, but they could probably still go there
What
voluntarily.
about state government, Michelle? Sorry for interrupting. State government.
Includes state government, and state it includes government worker. I'm looking for Mike Wallace, who I don't see in the room right now, but
Help us out on this.
oh, there he is, Mike.
I don't want to be
Come
accused of
Mike.
fake news.
come and
I do
share
not
our
want to see a
data, Mike.
tweet about fake news. Go ahead.
So yes, there is current Supreme Court case law that exempts state government from the wage and hour laws, thus making the state not required to follow the state minimum wage. They only need to follow the federal minimum wage.
So you speak like an attorney. Would I be correct on that?
No.
No, I would be correct that you do speak like an attorney. You're just not an attorney.
Yes, that's
And you
correct.
are? Tell everyone.
Mike Wallace, government affairs official, responsible for employment and labor policy and federal affairs.
Thank you for your explanation. We appreciate it. Anyone else on the minimum wage? By the way, yeah, that deserves a round of applause. We do appreciate clarifying things. Anyone else on the minimum wage? Young lady right here in the beautiful jacket and the red. I'm uncomfortable even commenting on what you're wearing. So go ahead.
Miriam Frollo, University of Phoenix. I'd like to hear some comments about linking the increase in minimum wage to workforce development and skill building.
And by the way, Michelle, again, I hate to keep bringing up the survey, which I know you don't like, which is a joke. It did talk about the potential impact on, I do a lot of coaching and training on workforce development, correct? That's a big piece of it. Jump in. Do you see it potentially adversely impacting workforce development?
Linking the minimum wage.
If the dollars went to, I think the logic goes like this: if more dollars were to go for a mandatory increase in the minimum wage, fewer dollars would go toward workforce training.
Mike? So the position that we've been enunciating at BIA, we discussed a little earlier, is what we'd like to see is a comprehensive discussion that includes a discussion of incentivizing workforce development for companies, because when you raise the skill set, you
Got it.
raise the wages.
Absolutely.
Mike, do we have
What
that
you're
right?
saying is,
Do we have that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. Thank you.
I know I'm in the mic.
Okay.
what you're saying is,
Final comments on this.
no, you're just saying the problem is you need a workforce that's well trained and well educated so they can fill the jobs that we need in New Jersey. And that can be an independent discussion of a minimum wage increase, or it could be part of it.
You know, what's always fascinating is, as I've been doing this forum for the last few years, an honor to be partners with the Business Industry Association. By the way, check out page 22 of the magazine. There's a great column. It happens to be called Lessons in Leadership with Steve Adubato. Just check it out. It's amazingly, it's really good. So
I'm sure everyone's already read it.
mandatory reading, just like the $15 is mandatory. But here's the thing. Can we talk an issue that we've brought up before, and it's the estate tax. The survey, I believe, found, as I was listening to Michelle on our broadcast on NJTV News, was saying that the trend is starting to go the other way, Michelle, that people are saying, hey, wait a minute. The estate tax laws have changed in the state, right? I'm more willing to die here without the double death tax. Any reason to be concerned that that trend could, look, I'm getting what?
Yeah. Well, I have heard that they want to reverse.
Who's they?
The Democrats led by the governor. They want to reverse the policy of ending the estate tax and then matching it with the federal estate tax, which is, I believe, about $6 million per person or $5.5 million per person. Exactly.
Yeah.
So my guess will be there may be some paring down of what the legislation was originally.
I actually believe that if you look at some of the data recently, and in the survey, it showed 40% now said that they would have their domicile in New Jersey, where last year they said 32%. And I do know Ralph Thomas, I know is
Ralph
in
is
the
right
room.
over here. I saw
but
Ralph
the-
representing the CPA Society.
Yeah, the New Jersey CPA Society had done a survey asking their members if they would change their advice. And I may have some of the numbers.
No, but I'm going to put Ralph on a spot here, so go ahead.
But, and they did say 70% of their members before the change were telling their clients that they should leave New Jersey.
That's right.
Once the law changed, they did another survey and they said, have you changed your advice? And remember, we did it in two stages. It went from 675 to 2 million complete exclusion on January 1, 2017.
Right.
And in January 1, 2018 is completely eliminated.
Completely.
Completely eliminated. So they asked, have you changed your advice? And above 30% said, yes, we have changed our advice. Another roughly 30% or so had said that we will change our advice if it's completely eliminated.
If.
Right? And then the other third said, hey, listen, it's still too expensive. But you would have had 70% who said go. Now you're up close to, a little south of 70% saying you don't have to go. And I will tell you, and I do think the CPAs and the estate attorneys will be the first one to see. And I've had discussion with a major CEO of a bank who said to me, they've had clients come in and change their estate plans. And in fact, one of the people were sitting there talking about Naples, Florida, and he said, my wife and I were going to buy a house in Naples, but we've decided to change. And we're going to rent down at the Ritz-Carlton, which is very nice down there.
We don't need to be plugging places in Florida, but go
a
ahead.
month a year. But so he said to his real estate guy down in Naples, he goes, we're not buying the house anymore. He goes, you know what? We're starting to see, and this is just what he told me.
Anecdotally, but valuable.
We're starting to see a less demand out of New Jersey because of the change in the estate law.
People
Jump
do
in
not,
and then Ralph, I'm going to get your insight. Go ahead.
two things. First, people do not want to leave for 6 months and 1 day. They'd much prefer to be in another environment, a warmer environment, for a couple months. So I agree with that. One
Not
other
6
issue.
and a day.
My biggest concern starting in this new legislative session is government of one party. Balanced government is, in my judgment, the best government. And people say they may not like Chris Christie or they may not like the Democrats in the legislature. The bottom line is real bad stuff normally doesn't happen. Look what happened in Washington. That legislation, in my judgment, for New Jersey is bad.
And you think it's because all the Republicans control everything?
Look, I happen to be a Republican, but I have to tell you, balanced government, then you have balance in the legislation. I sat on a
Not
committee.
gridlock.
Gridlock is not bad government. The less government does most of the time, the better. So
You're going to get applause for that. I knew that was coming. Come on, that's an applause line,
but
John.
I'm going to tell you, here's what can happen in Trenton. You get a couple people with a bad idea, but they're powerful people. People will not vote against them because it's a power group. And you were in the legislature.
Yeah, for
You
a
know
minute I
exactly
was there.
what I'm
You're trying to say
talking
people
about.
don't vote their conscience?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying people don't vote their conscience. I said it.
Because they're afraid of partisan consequences?
You don't think that there are many people in the legislature who are bossed, and if they disagree in 1 second, they're out like a pitcher in a Major League Baseball
Let me
game?
tell you, I was there
And-
for one term, John, and I could not care what leadership said, whether it was taken off a committee. I'm making that up. That's just not true.
You're Steve Adubato.
No, I'm not
You
true.
know,
That is absolutely true for both parties, by the way. If the Republicans are
there
in
are
control,
there are less bossed members of the legislature in the Republican Party. Hey, anytime you're going to go back and forth, off the record, I'll name somebody, you name somebody. Let's see who runs out first. But that's not. Look,
I'm enjoying this.
but my point wasn't. You asked about the conscience. I'm trying
I'm
to
being
keep it at
serious
a
about
higher.
that. They're afraid of, so even if it's a bad idea for the people of the state, they would go along with it for fear of how it would impact them and their committee assignments and whatever else.
No, their existence in the legislature. Not every.
You mean party leaders would take them off the, oh, wow.
Okay, let me put it this way. There are political bosses in the state that will take you out of the game faster than they fired the coach of the New York Giants. I'm just telling you, this is how it works. I'm not saying across the board. So my point wasn't that there are bosses in this state. My point is that when you have one party, you have a problem because bad stuff can happen because there is not a check and balance. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, Senator?
Steve, with the estate tax.
By the way, that is how the people voted, respectfully.
Yeah, with the estate tax, let me tell you, prior to some of the data coming and some of the comments that I think our colleagues on the other side of the aisle had heard, Governor-elect Murphy had it. He was actually publicly saying it was coming back. When he came out with his $1.3 billion
That's right.
increase, it did not include it.
I noticed that.
And some of it is because I firmly believe, I'm convinced, and it will show that we're actually making money on this because we're keeping capital and income here in New Jersey. That the reason why, if Senator Paul Sarlo was here, he would tell you he was the sponsor of the bill with me, the largest tax restructuring in the history of New Jersey. He was
He has a similar position you do on estate tax, does he not?
Absolutely.
He does.
Absolutely.
And by the way,
Because it's working.
And by the way, for those who don't realize this, as a broadcaster with public broadcasting and here, I am not here expressing any point of view. I am clearly playing devil's advocate, trying to provoke these two gentlemen into an honest discussion, which is not hard to do. But the other thing I want to do is make sure, on the issue of the estate tax, is there anyone here who wants to offer an insight, ask a question before we move on to another very important... by the way, Ralph, help us on this one. What have we missed on the estate tax?
Well, I think the senator just captured pretty well. The numbers were actually up. 75% of our members actually counseled or advised their clients to leave the state of New Jersey as part of their estate planning or wealth management. 81% of our members felt the estate tax caused people to leave New Jersey. And then on our back-end survey, after the tax reform package went through, your numbers were pretty right. I think the one fact was there was about 30% of our members who had concerns with the change in administration and were taking a wait-and-see attitude before they would change the narrative about the conversation that they would have with their clients on that. So I think initially when we had the ambassador in February,
Yes.
And asked the question about the estate tax if New Jersey hit a bump in the road, his answer then was everything is on the table. So that left our members and our leadership very concerned about the position on the estate tax, whether there would be a repeal of the estate tax.
Well said, thank you. P.S., last topic I wanted to bring up is the size of the state budget. Is it fair to say that if most, if not all, of the initiatives that are being talked about in the state are pursued by the Democratic leadership in the legislature and with our new governor-to-be, that there would be a significant increase in the size of the budget, which is how many billion right now? Is it 34? And if so, what do you think that would be? But more importantly, what do you believe the potential impact would be on business and the larger populace of the state? Leader?
I think come March, you're going to see a significant deficit in this budget. And
Deficit.
You're going to see you're surely not going to see a surplus. What I mean is year to year, you're going to see a crisis in approximately March. I think Governor Murphy is going to be facing a serious deficit, and forgetting about all the debt in the state. And then the rubber's going to have to hit the question is the rubber's going to meet the road there, and what decisions are going to have to be made. If you recall, when Governor Christie came in, he had to take money back from school systems. We're heading for, there's no question, a crisis because we have incredible debt. We have, I believe, a budget deficit in this fiscal year, and consequently, unless we start tightening spending seriously and looking at the reforms such as pension health benefit reforms, I just don't see how fiscally we can be successful.
Jump in.
Steve, I got to tell you, the one thing that we need, we started the skinning up of the budget. Obviously, there are things that are in there, like, for example, the pensions. We do need some more radical reform. I was a supporter of the Byrne-Healy report that came out. Many of you changed from a defined benefit plan to a cash balance, which is a quasi-hybrid defined contribution and a defined benefit plan combined. I thought it was an excellent suggestion. Business did it 25 years ago. So there's a number of decisions that have to be made, health benefits, school funding. However, the one thing that we have to do on the state level, the county level, the municipal level, is there's got to be time and discipline. It took us a while. New Jersey used to be one of the most economic powerhouses in the country. We got great assets. Our location between Philadelphia and New York, we're going to be here for the rest of our lives, right? We have a great workforce. We have a great infrastructure now that's being properly maintained. Those are our great assets. But what we did is we overpriced them. We overpriced with all the fees and the regulation and whatnot. And there's that economic theory, that price elasticity of demand. When you raise the price too high, you lose customers. And that's what we did. So we need time and discipline. And what had happened for many administrations, Republican, Democrat, they put it on the credit card. And the bills come due. The bill came due. And one of the key things about like that transportation trust fund, that people don't look at the debt side. The key thing that transportation trust fund, and if we're in 101.5 area here, I'm Darth Oraho, that's me, right? $5 billion on day one. We saved $5 billion on day one because why? There was $16 billion of existing debt that now that will be paid by out-of-state drivers. The debt issue in New Jersey, so we need time and discipline. We can't be having, and we need to make and be courageous to make the kind of decisions to say, okay, look, we have to change, as businesses did, to some sort of defined contribution plan.
Final comments on this?
Let's talk about Steve Orr, who won that election, despite the name calling on the radio and other places that I think is unfit for the public airwaves. My feeling is this: you may disagree with me on the increasing to $15 a minimum wage. You may disagree with my vote for the gas tax. But we can do that in a civil way without calling a senator a name on the radio. Bottom line is we're going to continue to do what we think is right. That name calling and that lack of civility and that kind of nastiness has no place in this society, and we should cut it out. Simple as that. And
Let's hear applause for that. So I'm curious, while it was not part of the survey, and I'm just curious, this tone, this more civil tone that we talk about, it isn't just on the radio or in the media. It could also be on social media, otherwise known as Twitter, and it also can come from places in the nation's capital. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
And what contribution does that make to a civil,
None, and
meaningful discourse?
I don't care who it comes from. I don't care if it comes from the president. I find it offensive. I think it's disrespectful not only to politicians but to the youth of this country, because you're supposed to be a leader and show civility and respect and set an example. And I agree with you 100%. I don't care.
How do we turn this around? Every time both of you have been on, Michelle's been on, we have civil discourse.
Well, what sells, let me tell you, what sells on television? If you go on with some civil discussion, they're going to change the channel. There's no question about that. That's what sells. If you put the headlines, Steve Orr talks about the importance of infrastructure in New Jersey and how important is the business. So my point is, if you're out of business in the media, if you stood there, if you went like this,
go ahead.
I'm Steve Onabato.
Well, no, I have charisma. That's different.
Yeah.
and by the
no
way,
one would argue with that.
Very true.
No, by the way, since you mentioned talking about being out of business, I would be remiss, and Michelle, if you'll allow me, in public broadcasting, right? We do largely because of the support of corporate folks, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that just a few of the, listen, all of you should support public broadcasting, but I won't turn it into that kind of commercial. To the folks at NJM, New Jersey Manufacturers, to PSE&G, to Horizon, to New Jersey Resources, to Verizon, and there are many others. But I just want to acknowledge that many of the supporters of this event help us do what we do every day in public broadcasting, not because we are appealing to the lowest common denominator, but we're actually trying to have meaningful discussion. So I'm going to ask you to join me in saying thank you to all the supporters of public broadcasting in the state. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that some of those renewals are up soon. I just want to clarify that. Never mind. Any comments from the audience before we get final comments here? Anyone? On an issue what issue have we not raised that is important to the members and the partners of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association? Anything we've missed? To what degree do you feel you'll be engaging and getting along in a positive way with Governor-elect Murphy?
Actually, at noon. What time is it now?
It is 11:40-ish. By the way, if Senator Sarlo walks in...
I'm out of here.
Okay.
Actually, the governor-elect asked me to meet him at noon, so I think I better leave.
Is that true?
Yeah. So,
what do you think that conversation will be like?
It's going to be great. Look, none of this is personal.
It's not personal.
Of course not. And when we remember, none of this is personal. There are some elected officials statewide and nationally who do take it personally.
Not you?
I don't. Why would it be personal? It's not about me. I got to get out of here.
Okay, Senator,
I don't want to be
final
late
comments?
for my first meeting.
I'm proud to say the governor-elect.
But let's hear for Assembly Minority Leader John Bramnick. Thank you so much. Thank you, John. You can catch him on April 7th at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. I feel like we're in Vegas. Senator, you get the final word.
John Bramnick does a great job, right?
He sure does.
I will tell you, Steve, I will tell you, the governor-elect has already sent me a number of text messages. He's already invited the whole legislature, he and his wife, for a holiday, party. But just the idea of having civil discussion, professional discussion.
That's right.
You have to get along to get things done. You have to, we could disagree. It doesn't have to be in a disagreeable way.
Name calling has no place.
Has no place. But at the same time, let's face it. You get what was the old saying? You get a lot more with honey than you with vinegar.
I agree.
And when we were all growing up, our mothers would always tell us, if we just listened to our mothers and did what they told us, we'd all be all right.
Be respectful to each other. And I want to please join me in saying thank you to Senator Orho. And again to Assemblyman Bramnick. Hold on. He just walked into the room. Put your hands together for State Senator Paul Sarlo's in the house.
Steve, if I may.
Senator, for the last half hour, people have been singing your praises, your party's praises, and they've said, we can't wait to see Paul Sarlo. Right? It is true. By the way, Senator Sarlo, we thank you for joining us. Michelle's going to be taking it back over. From my perspective, I cannot thank you enough. Paul, come on up here for a second. By the way, one more time for Senator Paul Sarlo as he comes up. Stay right here, Senator. Hey, buddy. Listen, Paul Sarlo's an athlete. He knows how to jump in and pitch in no matter what the situation is. Senator, real quick, if we could. Just let me throw a couple things at you. Take the mic. You ready? Here we go. Senator, your thoughts for the audience here. We talked about the millionaire's tax, and you're not surprised to hear that Assemblyman Bramnick and the senator were like, no, bad idea, we're going to lose people. You say if it moves forward, what happens in your view in the state?
Well, first of all, thank you. I apologize for being late. Why am I pro-business friendly Democrat? It's because I do run a large company and understand we have to turn profits every day. So I got caught up this morning. But first of all, Senator Oro and I have worked on, and that's one of the reasons why we're receiving an award today, on tax fairness for years. And you can count on me going forward. I believe the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee that I chair will be...
He does a great job.
Thank you. Will be the key committee going forward on ensuring that we keep New Jersey here, we keep your businesses profitable, and that we continue to provide tax fairness. Clearly, the millionaire's tax is something, a true millionaire's tax. There's no doubt about it. It's something I have supported in the past, and I have voted for in the past. But I think you're starting to hear caution from some of the leaders in the state of New Jersey, including Senate President Sweeney, incoming Speaker Coughlin, who say, let's just take a step back for the moment and take a look at what's happening in Washington.
It matters, doesn't it, Senator?
It does matter. What happens in Washington will matter. It really matters where I come from, the part of the state where I come from. Those deductions are critical to people who live in my district. The
state and local taxes.
The income tax and the property taxes. I pay some of the highest property taxes in the nation in Bergen County. And without having that deduction, it is very difficult. So we are going to keep that in mind to see what actually comes out of Washington. It comes out of Congress. We need to keep that in mind. But I will tell you this, in addition to some of the other proposals, I think you've seen Governor-elect Murphy has not brought up the estate tax. And that's something that we have fought for many, many years. I know it's very important to a lot of small business owners that are out there. We fought very hard to repeal that, and that's something we're not going to, not under my lifetime as the chairman of the Budget Committee, will we allow that to happen again. So
you would, if the governor were to say, you know what, we need to go back and re-examine, not relitigate, but re-examine this whole estate tax thing, you would say?
It's not going to happen.
We already did
Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And we've had that conversation. We've had that conversation.
With the governor-elect.
With the governor-elect. We've had that conversation that the estate tax is off limits. Listen, we need to strike a balance, all right? We need to strike a balance. As I've always said, and I've said this before the BIM many times, there's no better place to live, to raise a family than here in New Jersey. We have access to the best health care, some of the best public schools, some of the best universities and colleges. My son is a senior in high school. In between running a company this morning and driving from North Jersey to here, I was on the phone with his counselors, my wife, him. He's applying to some of the top engineering schools, all within 2 to 3 hours a drive from our home. So this is a great place to live, great place to raise a family, great place to run a business, but we all recognize it's expensive.
That's right.
It's the Northeast. It's expensive. So we need to continue to find ways to be more affordable, keep all of you here, keep our high-income earners here. You know, we see what happened with David Tepper, one man, right?
How much did we lose,
We lost $150 million,
in taxes he would have otherwise paid.
So we recognize that. We need to strike a balance. But we have an obligation, and I'm a Democrat. I am the middle-of-the-road, very moderate guy. I believe we do have an obligation, though, to make sure we provide the best education, take care of our most vulnerable. That costs us money. And we have to strike that balance of the revenues coming in. But you can't tax your way out of the problem. You got to grow the economy. I like to hear Governor Murphy talk about that we need to create an economy that is going to rival any other state in the nation. I think getting some of the animosity out of the room that we've just went through, some of the rhetoric, lowering the temperature,
that's right,
will be a good thing. And I think Governor-elect Murphy will do that, an open dialogue. I like where the Senate stands. I think we're in a good position. As I said to my members yesterday, Republican and Democrats, we're going to be very busy. I pledge to all of you, as the chairman of the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, we're going to keep each and every one of you in mind. Your business is involved. We'll work closely with the BIA. They do a great job representing you down there. This is not a commercial. They didn't tell me to say this.
This is true.
They do a great job representing your interest. They are in constant communication with my office and constant communication with me on legislation that comes forward. We may not agree on everything, but please know we will keep you in mind as we move forward. Oh, one other thing, the minimum wage.
I was just going to ask you. Good idea, $15?
Listen, I supported the CPI increase. Clearly, the minimum wage, we can't go to $15 overnight. That can't happen. I know what it would do to small business owners. It would do to our retail. I'm going to fight for a lot of exclusions, especially for seasonal workers, college kids, part-time workers. A lot of those exemptions we're going to need. I'm not sure if I'm going to be successful.
Most of your colleagues disagree on that.
Many of my colleagues do
Democratic
disagree.
colleagues.
But I do support increasing the minimum wage. For the record, I do support that. But I want to make sure we put some exclusions in, and we do this in a very, very rational and practical manner. I was just on the phone with the Insera family, who runs all the ShopRites in North Jersey.
Great ShopRites.
Great family.
Larry and Sarah on the team.
Great employer, union employer. They do a great job reaching out to the disabled community who works for them.
Back.
They are just a great family. They're concerned. They just said we need to take a very practical approach to this going forward. So I understand where you all feel on that. I will do my best to keep all of your interests in the debate as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you. By the way, stay there, Senator. One of the things about One of the things about Senator Sarlo, you can always count on him to not just be reasonable, whether you agree or disagree, but to tell you exactly what he thinks and feels and why. So one more time for State Senator Paul Sarlo and his colleague, Senator Oroho.